Hi everyone, welcome to CodeTav Management. So today I am going to discuss about one common and very important system design question. So the question is design a URL shortening service like TinyURL. Okay. So means what is the meaning of it? So one long URL will be provided to you, right? And after that you need to sort it. That's the basic problem statement. Okay. So it basically takes a long URL. Okay, then it will returns a short URL. Clear? And redirects users from short to long URL. Okay, and you need to do one thing. What the thing is, it should be like you whatever system or whatever service you will form, that should be scalable first and highly available. So in front of interviewer, you need to discuss in that way. You need to think in that way. Okay. That your system should be scalable. Your application should be first and it will be highly available. Okay. So one example I will give you. What kind of example? So like input. Input will be provided like suppose HTTPS, then suppose www dot something like Amazon.in. Then suppose you are scrolling some products. So products, okay, and uh, you want to buy iPhone 17, okay, okay, and you also see some query parameters, right? So suppose a reference something like XYZ, okay, and what output you need to generate basically. Output will be like your HTTPS TinyURL or something like tiny.url, and some ID you will give, like you will generate, and according to that ID, basically your that input will be your corresponding output. So something like AZ9KP1, something like that. So how you will form it? So let's discuss. So the high level requirements I will just discussing. What are the high level requirements? So what are your functional requirements? What are your non-functional requirements? Okay. So just divide it in that way. Functional, and here suppose non-functional. Okay. So your functional requirements, so there will be generate a short URL. Then next point will be like redirect your short URL to the original URL, and third can be like handle millions of requests per day. Okay, and in terms of non-functional, it means low latency, high availability, some horizontal scaling, and collision-free short URLs. In terms of this, you need to explain like your functional and non-functional requirements. Okay. So now, hmm, I will want to explain with you one high level architecture. Okay. You also need to discuss about this with your interviewer. Some high level architecture. Okay. So here is your suppose client. Okay. Or user. So there they will hit one API or some request they will hit, right? But suppose millions of requests it will come. Okay. So you need to think about the load balancer. There will be huge load in your system, right? So you need to introduce a load balancer. Okay. And then from that URL shortener API. Okay. And this URL shortener API, your request will come and then it will search from one storage, right? So that can be cache or it can be DB. Okay. So mainly your URL mapping already done in your DB, right? URL mapping. And Redis is basically your cache. Okay. Suppose you will use Redis cache. So the thing is, client will come. You need to balance your your load of your system. Okay, and then the request through the URL shortener API, it will go to the storage like cache or the database, right? In the database, your main URL mapping is done, and so initial request will fall in this database, and then if with the same ID, like here I have shown you here, right? This one. So according to this ID, the main data will be stored in the database, and then if you will search again with the same ID, then it will be fetched from your cache. Okay. So now next I will discuss, or you also need to discuss with your interviewer. Okay. Like URL shortening logic. What logic you will use? So first of all, you need to tell that user basically sends the long URL, right? Then what will be done? So first thing is like user sends long URL. Okay. Now next is your service will generate what? Your service will generate unique ID, right? Next, ID is covered to base 62. I will come into the point like why base 62. But for now, I'm just writing or just going to explain like what main steps are you will cover. Okay. Then store the mapping. Store the mapping means short code to long URL. That mapping you need to store. Next, point 5 is you need to return your short URL. Okay. So these are the points. User sends the long URL, then your service will generate the unique ID. Then ID is covered to base62. Then you need to store the mapping, which mapping, short code to long URL, and then you need to return your short URL. Okay. Now I will explain like why base62. So in our English letters, okay, from small case A to Z, how many characters are there? 26. In the long, like capital case, also 26. And numeric like 0 to 9, how much? 10. So if you will calculate the total, this is 62. Okay. So if you will think like how many sort you like what will be the sort URL length, like how many sort URL can be generated from here. Hmm? So approx you can calculate it like 62 uh, to the power something like 6. Okay. So this is approx 50 to 60 billion URLs you can generate. So our architecture planning done here. Okay, here you have already provided the high level architecture. Then URL shortening logic you also have provided to your interviewer. Why you were using why base64, that you have covered. Next, database design. Okay. Now come into part like you will make one URL table, right? So then think about what kind of parameters you will use. So first of all, ID, what will be your primary key. Then next is your short code, short code. Next is your long URL. Okay. Next, your created at like when it has been created, and the expiry also you can add. Okay. So when mainly that this kind of things, always you make the ID as like the data type, like field for the field ID, you need to use bigint. Bigint through the bigint, a long range will be covered. We cannot use int, right? So I will use here the bigint. Sorry for the mistakes. So this will be your primary key, right? Next is your short code. So for the short code, you will use varchar. Okay. For the long URL, it can be text. For created at, you will use timestamp, right? And for expiry, also it can be timestamp, right? Okay. Now you need to think about the redirect flow. Okay. So I'm coming into that redirect flow, or you can think it like workflow. Okay. So user hits the tiny URL. Okay. So it is like tiny something URL. Okay. And your short code. Okay. So suppose AZ 9K P1. Okay. Now now what it will be done? Like next, it will basically check the Redis. Check Redis cache. Okay. After that, there will be cache hit or cache miss, right? So if hit, then redirect, clear? And if miss, then fetch from DB. Okay. And then save to cache, and then redirect. Clear? So that is the redirect flow. Okay. Then you can give some code explanations. Okay. So suppose sample code you can also show. So there mainly you need to cover the first thing is your base 64 like base 62 in encoder. Okay. So base 62 encoder, right? So you will take one base 62 string. Okay. Your base 62 string you will take. Okay. Then how you will encode that logic you can explain. Okay. So your encode method, and here you will pass the long ID. Okay. Then you need to think what you will use like for parsing it. Okay. Like you will use the normal string or string builder or string buffer. So here come into the like string buffer or string builder, as those are mutable. Okay. So and both between these two, like string builder and string buffer, string buffer is the thread safe, and as it's thread safe, so its performance also, it's slow. But here we need first response. Okay. So you need to think about the string builder. So in that way you can explain like why you are going to use the string builder instead of string buffer. Okay. You need to use string builder. Also explain why you are using. Okay. Then you like put a condition like while id is greater than 0, then you will append sp dot append like your string builder append the your base 62 what you have taken here, actually base 62, that one dot char at int and mm, you will do id modulo id modulo 62. Okay, then you will also calculate like dividing it, id divide equals to 62. Okay, and then your that part will be done, and you will just return what you will return, that is b dot reverse dot to string. In that way you can explain one sample code. Okay, next you will your that base 64 encoder like base 62 encoder part is done. Then you can explain your sort URL creation, how you will create that. Okay, so here basically what you will do, you will uh, you will save one ID. Okay, like where you will save your long URL, you can use the auto increment of ID. Okay, and then you can encode that ID, right? And then in the cache you can put. Okay, so basically I am just going like just going over it like some method, suppose sort an URL method you want to make, and there you are going to pass your long URL. Okay, then long id equals, then in your database you just save your long URL, and uh, this will be actually your auto increment ID. Okay, and then string sort code, how we will make the sort code now, encode the ID. Okay, and next what you will do, you will add this in your cache dot put your short code and corresponding long URL. So for corresponding long URL you are generating the short code. Okay, and then what you will return, you will return that your TinyURL uh, first portion, what you want to add before that. Okay, slash, then your short code. Okay, so in that way you can just make your short URL. Clear? So I have explained the base 62 encoder part, then short URL creation part, right? And next, how you are going to redirect your API. Okay, redirect the API means this one. See this one done. So how the redirection part, like this redirect flow. If hit, then redirect. If miss, then fetch from DB, then save to cache, and then redirect. Okay, so that part logic you can also explain. So some return type string, then that type of redirect. I'm just going to add the method name here, nothing more. String, then you will pass that sort code. Okay, and next what you will do, that string long URL, you want to get it from your cache through your short code. Okay. Now, if long URL equals null, means you are not getting that one from your cache. What you will do? What you will do? Like, okay, you will first find the long URL from your database dot find method. Okay, through your short code. Okay. Next, you will do the cache put. If it will not found, okay, it will put actually short code long URL. Okay, so if the long URL is null, okay, here it's actually see, uh, you are using the redirect method. So string long URL, it will trying to get it from your short code. So uh, if you it will be fine if the long URL fetched here, okay, here, then it's fine. But if it's not, then long URL equals database dot find, like from the database it's trying to find. So initially it was trying to find from the cache. If it will not find, then it going inside this if block, and then from the database it will find, then inside the cache we are putting. You got the logic, right? If anything more required, then you just comment below. And here you are returning the long URL. Okay, so that's the logic basically. So now for the scalability and optimizations, you also need to think about the scalability and optimization. Okay, so you are also already using the Redis for hot URLs, and you that's why the DB load it's reducing, and so that is your mainly caching part. So that is why we are using the Redis. Then the DB part. For the DB part, we can use the sharding actually by shortcode. We are doing by shortcode and read the replicas for scaling. And then we need to think about high availability. So multiple service instances and load balancer we have provided. So that's why it's also handled. Okay. Now edge cases like duplicate URLs. If the duplicate URLs, then we can reuse the existing short URL. Then we need to also think about the expired URLs. Okay, spam URLs, analytics. Okay, like that. So these are the main things you can just going through it during your interview. Suppose this type of questions, then the high level architecture, then the database designing part, then sample code you can also write, then scaling optimizations on top of that you can also explain. So from that, what kind of follow-up questions can be asked? That also I will cover, but in the next lecture. So thanks for the listening, and so I will be happy if you will do some likes, shares, and subscribe. Okay, and I will cover more this type of architectural and system design related questions. Okay, so. If you also want for any specific topic, you can comment below. I will try to cover. Thanks everyone.